So now that we're ready to hit the ground running, I'm hopeful, we're going to have a bunch of really neat people come up and talk about some incredibly unique ways in which they're thinking about workforce development in their space. So with that, I'd like to invite the panel to come up on stage. Welcome. So what I'd like to do is maybe start off by having each one of you introduce yourselves and share an area of focus that you all come from different aspects of workforce planning. So Venkat, we'll start with you.
Hello, my name is K.S. Venkatraman. I go by Venkat. The Senior Director for AI Computing at Nvidia. I also serve with you, Anne, on the State Workforce and Talent Development Board, and it's also my pleasure to co-chair the Technology Industry Consortium with Lisa. So very happy to be here, and thank you for having me.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mariah Robbins. I'm the Vice President of People and Operations at A-dec, and I'm also a co-chair of the Future Ready Oregon Advanced Manufacturing Consortium.
Hi, everyone. Lisa Skari, President of Mount Hood Community College, and as Venkat mentioned, I co-chair the Technology Industry Consortium with him.
Good afternoon, Travis Reiman, Superintendent of the Hillsboro School District. I also serve on the Workforce and Talent Development Board as a K-12 representative, and I'm part of the consortium under Future Ready for Manufacturing.
Buenas tardes, I'm Jonath Montesi. I'm Deputy Director of Economic Development for Centro Cultural, and I also serve as co-chair of the Advanced Manufacturing Consortium.
All right, let's get started. Okay, Venkat, artificial intelligence is certainly impacting the workplace. What are the implications for skills, and how do we need to approach talent development differently to meet the challenge?
So AI, or artificial intelligence, has been around for over 75 years. And the Turing machine during World War II is an example. But more recently, the rise in accelerated computing combined with the enormous amounts of data that's available to us has led to this field of deep learning, which has effectively made computers superhuman, particularly in the areas of vision and language domains, with many more domains to come. And we sit at this inflection point of the exponential curve with generative AI, and that revolution seems bigger than the internet revolution and the mobile revolution. So every economic sector is scrambling to figure out how to incorporate AI into their businesses. And so there is a demand for workforce development. And particularly with workforce development, I think the skills that are required in this space are the human skills, which is the collaborative problem solving, critical thinking, and coupled with the emotional intelligence aspects of things like the empathy, the communication, and the most importantly, the self-critique, understanding when you made a mistake and what is it that you can improve on. So these are skills that we not only need to train our workforce on, but also give employers a means to assess these skills. And I think most of us here agree that education lifts all boats. I believe that technology lifts all economic sectors. And in fact, computing is probably the most important instrument of human advancement ever created. So we should embrace it and figure out how we can use it to solve some of our toughest problems, like energy transition for the climate crisis, or healthcare or manufacturing, beyond education and skill development.
Thank you. Mariah, question for you. Employer engagement in workforce development is critical. How must employers engage differently to foster deeper, sustained talent partnerships that meet their talent needs and strengthen the diversity of their workforce?
Thanks, Anne. Great question. As all of you have heard today, the economic development and workforce development challenges that are facing us are much more complex than they were before. Thinking childcare, housing, challenges we were not solving years before as employers. And the challenge is that we have been mostly trained as employers to think internally first or do things ourselves. When we build talent pipelines or development programs, we often do those things in silos. And you've heard Ann speak about that. So one of the things that I love, because right now the challenges that are facing us are so complex that a singular vision from our employee place is not going to be sufficient for solving the problems we need to solve. So that's what I love about employers coming together with the Consortia model, is because we're getting the best of all of our talents and capabilities, and we're able to lean in on the partnerships from all the diverse backgrounds. One of the things that I really appreciate about being part of the Future Ready Oregon and the group that has been brought together is there's also some untraditional partners at the table, which encourages us to think differently, to bring more diverse perspectives to the table, to understand different geographies or lived experiences, so that we have better, more equitable solutions at the end. So that has been really great. And one of the things, and Ann mentioned this as well, is that the problems out there have been solved. We have lots of pilots, lots of successful pilots that have breached some of these challenges we're trying to solve in our workforce. So what we need to do is come together and collaborate. We need to think big, right? That's what we're here today to talk about. We need to collaborate. We need a new way of thinking about the way that we work together. And so for all the employers that are here, I know you've heard it, but I would just encourage you to think differently, lean in on your industry consortium, and if there isn't one already, follow Ann's lead. We can go do this. We don't need to be invited to lead. We can go create one and solve problems in a much bigger, more systemic way.
Thank you. Travis, you're up next. Your school district is doing an outstanding job working career-connected learning. What have you learned about creating more effective partnerships that connect education to careers and ensure that every student is aware of and prepared for pathways for meaningful careers?
Thank you, Ann. I'm so excited to share on behalf of our team in Hillsboro today. I represent the work of our city and our chamber and our schools and community college partners, and I appreciate the acknowledgement and the enthusiasm in the room today around K-12 as an important part of the talent and workforce development plan for the state of Oregon. Our promise to our students is to know, value, and empower each of them to figure out who they are in this world and how their talents can connect to a purpose after graduation. We know that we have incredibly talented young people in schools right now. In our school district, we have about 18,000 students. We speak 150 different languages. Our students bring all kinds of cultural, academic, social assets to the table when it comes to our future in Oregon. Our job right now as the adults is to figure out how our training and education systems can adapt so that they can see a clear path to future professions and ways to contribute in our communities. A couple of examples of that. Right now, our partnerships, a few to brag about, would be our aerospace program in partnership with Horizon and Alaska Airlines. We've got a bioscience program sponsored by Genentech. We've got a construction and diesel mechanics program sponsored by Caterpillar. So we say that investing in our CTE programs is not a charity case. It's a talent strategy. We know that our industry partners and business partners are looking at our students as the future of their workforce, and every investment, whether it's dollars or mentorship in a student's life, creates somebody who's inspired about themselves and will contribute to your businesses and to our communities. So I'm really excited about that. A latest innovation that I would like to mention is that we are the district in the state of Oregon right now with a registered youth apprenticeship in the area of manufacturing. We have students.
Yeah,
yes,
it
thank you.
deserves a clap. It's huge.
We're right in the middle of the Silicon Forest, we call it, and right now we have students from Century High School who have a CTE class when they're sophomores, juniors, seniors, and they do part of their apprenticeship in class and part of that apprenticeship on the job. And when they graduate from our schools, they become a certified manufacturing technician, which is a registered apprenticeship certification that's transferable to other states, other regions, and that's an incredible accomplishment for a high school student. They may choose to stack on other educational pieces to their journey, but they're also earning money while they're a junior in high school and going to that job in the afternoon while studying in our schools. I think that's a new frontier for us in education and in education industry partnership. I think the challenge right now is how fast can we move and how adaptable can we be to the skills gaps that we see and the talent gaps across industry sectors. So I'm excited that we're involved in the Future Ready Oregon Consortium work, because I think within each of those consortia, we're building that ecosystem of K-12 education, community college, universities, and then workforce training. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, Lisa, community colleges are key partners in workforce development. Can you share some examples with us of the types of partnerships you are leading that are reshaping how we meet industry needs and support priority populations in career development?
Yes. Thank you, and thank you for noting how the key role that community colleges have in workforce development. I just want to say, for those of you who don't know, our 17 community colleges are absolutely amazing. I think I need to borrow Derek's word and say they're cool. We serve about 200,000 students across the state annually, and a recent report showed that we contributed $9.6 billion in income to the Oregon economy, which is pretty notable. On top of that, 1 in every 22 jobs in the state is supported either by our colleges or one of our students. And so we take this role of workforce development very seriously, and we're very proud of it. But one thing we're seeing is it used to be workforce development was kind of a hub and spoke model where we would meet with this employer and we would, figure out how to support them, and we'd meet with this employer. But really, these industry consortiums are bringing everyone into the same space, and so we can all address the problem together. And let me give you an example that actually started right here on the stage. I think it was back in 2021 at the Oregon Business Summit. Senator Wyden talked about forming a blue panel task force to talk and look at the semiconductor industry in Oregon. And by February of 2022, the Semiconductor Competitive Task Force had been formed. And I was very honored to be asked to sit on the task force, but also co-chair the Talent and Workforce Subcommittee, along with Dr. Naganathan from Oregon Institute of Technology. And this group, which had employers and it had labor and community-based organizations, we were to look at how the talent and workforce space in Oregon was going to develop to support the needs of the semiconductor industry, from the operator all the way up to research and development. And during these meetings, I still remember one of the most significant opportunities or interactions I had was when we met with a group of folks from the Hillsboro Consortium. And they talked to us, give them a applause. They were absolutely amazing and talked to us about what they had been working on. And what really struck me is here you had a group of what I would consider competitors, right? Different employers. But they'd all come together and they weren't competing, they were collaborating, and they were working together to figure out how to make this happen. And so in that, thinking about what can we do in East County, which is home to Mount Hood Community College, but also Microchip and On Semi, and continued these conversations. And one of the first things we were able to do is we did apply for a Future Ready Oregon grant in the first round. And that included Microchip and On Semi, and the idea was to upskill their incumbent workers and do that through a mobile training lab that could go on site to them. And it was amazing, and we were awarded, but also we were hoping for 24 students, and we ended up with over 100 employees that were interested in that class. And that was just kind of the beginning. The employers also stepped up, offering internships, paid tuition reimbursement, but also they knew that in order for the employees to get the training, there may need to be some modifications on their schedules. So they adjusted schedules so that they could work and do the classes. And so it's just an example of how coming together and looking at a problem can actually have some outcomes. That then spun into much larger conversations around a second grant where we've expanded. City of Gresham has been a great partner, as has Work Systems, Inc. And we brought in our partner Latino network to figure out how we can further engage priority populations. And it's a perfect win-win situation in how we can address this. And I love that it's happening at all levels, from the classroom to the clean room to the C-suite. We're all engaged in trying to figure out how we're going to come up with solutions to solve this workforce challenge.
Thank you. And Jonath, for you, the health of our industry sectors and economy depends on growing and diversifying our workforce. How must we reset our partnerships and workforce development programs to ensure equitable recruitment, retention, and career advancement for our priority populations?
And thanks for that question. I think it's an amazing time in our lifetime. I think we won't experience this again, I hope. And we took a lot of lessons from the field. Centro has a workforce that started pre-COVID and was doing the traditional work of supporting people through their journey. COVID hit, and we realized that we needed to do everything that we had not done before and more. And that was to throw out the playbook. We also saw our partners throughout the playbook. All rules were taken off the tables, and people began to create meaningful, intentional opportunities for community based on the need that they had. And that begins a different conversation. We're hoping that at this junction, we continue to have those dialogues, to continue to move forward with our new playbook of what our economy will look like, on what our talent will look like, on how we would approach our new systems. It disrupted all of our systems. And one of the things in certain sectors that we were able to enjoy, those who were collectively having conversations and trying to resolve the issues at hand, that they discover something, their essence. Not what the talent that they needed, but what was their industry essence. And by understanding that essence, they were able to move forward and communicate that to us community-based organizations, to those that were in the trenches, to help us identify and provide the support, the mentoring, the coaching, the navigation. There's a lot of resources that currently exist, but there's very few people that are helping navigate that for someone. One of the things that we don't necessarily are thinking about is the 5 generations that are currently in our workforce. And we have the wisdom of one generation and the passion of the other in the midst of the stable generation, whichever one that is, trying to figure a place to redefine what the workforce will be for them. And I think that we are at that junction, that finding our essence in our sectors and our industries, and being able to communicate that with community-based organizations, priority populations, and really looking at what our new world of work, which is a term that's been around for a long time, but it really has a different meaning today, will do for us as we move forward. Our talent is currently in the room. We just have to discover what the big idea is with them.
Excellent, thank you. I'm going to throw a question out. Feel free to chime in. So how do we partner more effectively through industry consortia? So I talked a lot about the consortium that we stood up at PGE and the fact that Future Ready has stood up 3. How do we think about that? How do we help all of us in the room think about partnering more effectively?
So I think the establishing a partnership between academia, industry, and government to focus on not only education and training, but it's the entire talent pipeline, starting from K through 12. I think we have an immense opportunity, given the rapid technological advancements, to make computer science with a foundational course on the basics of AI, a core graduating requirement at K through 12. We've had some successes with a task force before COVID to implement AI programs at community colleges, but I'd like to expand that with Lisa's help throughout the state through the consortia. And then we were also successful in implementing a graduate program at Oregon State, and it's nice to see that talent pipeline now work for us. And this area, the Pacific Northwest, has huge opportunities, particularly with semiconductor technology. And so we should just lean into that. And the CHIPS Act will help, and the Semiconductor Industry Consortium helps as well. So I think we have an opportunity to collaborate, and I think because of the rapid pace of technological advancements, we just need to collaborate more effectively.
Yeah, collaboration. Heard it through all. Yeah. Lisa.
Well, and I would just add, sometimes a consortium seems very formal, but it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be, in your communities or in your industry, bringing a few employers, bring your educational provider. I will say, I'm sure there's a community college in your district that would be more than happy to be at the table with you. Just call them. And talk about that single issue of how do we deal with the workforce? What do we need for training? What do we need for supports? What are the issues? Because I think that single focus is what helps move things forward. And know that it's going to take a little time, but there's so much other things that come around with it as far as working better and more collaboratively and understanding who your partners are.
Thank you. All right, next question. Future Ready is just the beginning. How do we think bigger about creating and sustaining change?
I have some
Travis.
ideas from the education side. That, when I think big, I think about starting upstream. And by that, I mean there's some research out there that shows that students have a pretty well-developed sense of their academic identity by about 4th grade. And I think that has to extend to their professional identity as well. One thing that we can do is show students what it would be like if they were able to access any of the professions that they would aspire to. We say that if you can see it, you can be it. Our school's foundation and local donors are equipping our elementary schools with career kits so that students can see from the earliest grades what it looks like to not only be a firefighter or a public safety officer, but also an engineer or a pilot. We have the Air Show Foundation bringing female pilots into our classroom to show young women that they can also aspire to be in either military careers or in aviation. We have folks like Intel bringing engineers into our classrooms at 4th grade to talk about what engineers do. Because our students can move around in town, but they don't know what happens in those mirrored windows and brick walls. They're not sure what it means to be an engineer unless their parents are in that profession. I mentioned our apprenticeship earlier, and folks from Gyra Semiconductor and Toso Quartz come into our classrooms at freshman and sophomore year to recruit future apprentices. Because again, when you're a freshman, you don't know what that looks like. When you hear Toso Quartz, you're picturing some magical crystals, but you have no idea what it is that those people do and if that would be you.
Yeah.
And so I think helping our students understand what that picture is in the future and then unlocking their talents as a match is one of our keys to thinking bigger about this in the state of Oregon.
I just wanted to say one thing, just to add to what Travis said. When we work in industry, it is critical for people who are passionate about students and growing their capabilities to come talk to them and inspire them. Because I was similarly inspired in high school by engineers. So it's really nice for somebody from Intel or from Nvidia or from any company in the Northwest to go talk to high school students and just talk about a day in the life of a technician or an engineer. Because I think that makes a difference, because there's a large aptitude versus opportunity gap. Many students have the aptitude, but they don't know what opportunities exist, and this is a good way of closing the loop.
Part of what we're thinking about with the Clean Energy Consortium is, in the past, we would say, okay, which high schools, this is for PGE, which high schools do we want to go and visit and try to, find enough people to sort of go across our service territory, which is a lot. There are a lot of schools to attend to. With the consortium model, you can scale that. So now you have materials, and for the people that are passionate, as you all have talked about, you can send them out into the high school to talk about and model those careers at scale versus having to say, oh, you can only go to 5 schools or what have you. So it really does provide the opportunity to give students a lens into the world that we're all talking about. And we're going to have to get the grid innovation analyst at your school one of these days, Travis. So just give me that idea. Anyone else on that way? Yeah.
Yeah, so Anne, you touched on a really important topic that I think is what I get really excited about with consortia building is the ability to disseminate, right? That should be the goal of any good grant-funded program, is that we can replicate it to scale. And so by having so many pilots and so much great work happening across our state, it helps us bring it together so that we have basically this collection of all these pilots that have been tested. So they're successful already, and it allows us to be able to do them with limited resources, so we're not recreating the wheel or having to test things over and over. I mean, you've heard so many of them, the mobile labs and the partnerships with industry in the high schools. So that ability to bring us together and disseminate is something that I really think, in the spirit of thinking big, when I really think about the future of, an industry consortium across our state, I think of it like a master huge CRM, where you imagine that any student can enter any institution and their credits and their experience transitions and follows them. And think about then we bring that and broaden it to employers. Think about how great it could be for our employees and their development if they can go in and out of not just our career pathways, but our industry career pathways, so that they can learn more. And so when I think big, I'm thinking it might sound crazy, but having this way that we all share not only students, but talent in the future. And so I think that's the type of systems that I think that a consortium can bring.
Thank you. Any other closing thoughts from anyone on the panel?
So I would just ask, the theme here is think big. And so if I'm dreaming and thinking big, I would love to see everyone sitting in this room figure out how to engage in a consortium or in an effort that is consortium related around an area of workforce in our state. Because the more people that are engaged and involved, not only are we going to be able to accomplish more, we're going to be far more integrated in how we operate as a state, and we'll all do better. So there's my challenge to each of you.
Excellent. Anyone else?
I think the big idea here is that our talent pool has changed dramatically. It's more diverse, it's younger, it's older. And I think we have to include all those factors as we reinvent what our talent pool will look like.
Well said. And with that, please join me in thanking these amazing people who are doing incredible work for sharing their learnings with us all. Thank you. I know we touched on the need for rethinking curriculum and how we're working with the students of today for the jobs of tomorrow. To talk about this, I want to invite to the stage Petra Marmon, a student at Central Oregon Community College. Please help me welcome Petra.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. So Petra, I would love to start off by having you introduce yourself to us and tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, I'm a 32-year-old college student, community college at COCC. Thank you so much. Yeah, I have 2 kids, 7 and 3. I'm married. I work in the service industry as a bartender on the weekends. My husband and I swap just because childcare is expensive. We can't afford it, really. So yeah, I go to school when my kids are at school, and then yeah, we just do this like musical chairs thing and try to he helps me during finals week, and he's just supportive and amazing man. But my story is a little different. I didn't actually. So my parents, my biological parents, they suffered from substance abuse, gang violence. I'm first-generation American and first generation to go to college, so they had a really rough life. I don't think it's their fault. I think their circumstances it was just like a generational thing. But anyway, so I had no real guidance. I was taken away from my biological parents when I was 3. Growing up in the ghettos of LA, I moved to Bend and had I'd say this all the time, Oregon was my sanctuary. I love my community, Central Oregon. It's just a place with lots of hope for me and prosperity and just amazing support. And I kind of turned to college and my community. I volunteer at a few places like my kids' school and Head Start as a policy council member. And yeah, basically I took on a lot of little tasks while I'm going to school part-time, but it's just been so helpful for me and just discovering myself and what I like and what I wanted to do. I'm at the end of my, I'm applying to the nursing program soon, but basically I started with no guidance. Like I didn't know how, thank you. I didn't know how to apply for college. I didn't really have any basic needs. I lived very poorly for most of my life. I've worked 3 jobs and I was in healthcare 10 years prior to the pandemic, decided to go back to school after my second. So yeah, that's basically how I got to community college, and it's just a world of like just resources, and I depend on them. Someone like me who my outcome could have been very different. I've had my siblings, you know, die from gang violence, and I luckily came to Oregon to live with an aunt, and I don't have any contact with my biological parents, but education is literally everything for me, and I appreciate my staff, the staff at the community college, the teachers, all of their guidance, my Latinx group, just everyone. I think it's so important to support people that go to community college because it's all we have, especially when you're working and you have children. It's all walks of life. It's not just 17-year-olds, or it's everybody. And I cannot tell you enough, like just food banks, the clothing banks, tuition. During COVID, my husband started a business and it tanked. Obviously, everything went, everyone suffered, and everything shut down. So we were living off of a $19 income. We didn't know how to pay our mortgage. We were like, oh my gosh, we're gonna lose the house. And I guess, I don't know if there was like some type of advertisement, but through the COCC website, they're like emergency funding for students. I'm like, bam, I'm there. So it's helped us so much. And online learning for me, I don't learn that way, especially anatomy and physiology. My GPA has like not, it took a big hit with online learning. I found myself ready to give up, and I had like basically a newborn. So I was just like, oh man, this is really freaking hard. I don't think I can do this. And I think I took a little break when I saw my grades kind of plummet, and I just went right back at it. And now I'm almost done, and I'm glad I stuck to it. And I'm just so grateful for my husband's support, my family, and yeah, I love my school and my staff, and I'm just grateful for people that contribute to the student funds and who supports teachers and staff, because without them, I would be literally lost. I would not be here telling you that I'm about to apply to the nursing program. So it's been great, and yeah, thank you.
And we need you in the nursing program.
Yeah.
And I love your tenacity. When you spoke a little bit earlier about the support that the community college setting offered to you, can you delve into that a little bit more and talk with us about what's been most helpful in that? Like maybe talk a little bit about some of the supports and things that you think are important for other students as well.
Yeah, so I think definitely the food banks, clothing banks, helping students access basic needs and resources, supporting staff, teachers, mental health is huge. I actually think it's kind of been like one of my, I always tell my kids, you know, like you just have to do better. You want your kids to be happy, and especially during this huge, you know, national global trauma with the pandemic. I have my kids in behavioral health, and Honestly, I wish students can access those services more, but unfortunately, there's a shortage everywhere, and that's just not the case. But another thing is like music and art. I heard a lot of people talk about that, and I sang in mariachi for many years, and I think that was my outlet. And I think because we don't have those resources for behavioral health, maybe just like supporting our children, especially 0 to 5, in those kind of aspects, because that kind of just gives us a little buffer, something that they can just express themselves with, and something exactly. And who knows, maybe they'll pursue it or be a famous singer or whatever along the way. You never know where the road takes you. I'm sitting here now just talking to all these amazing people, and it sounds like we all have the same vision. So I think, yeah, definitely supporting our staff, basic needs, our students, so that it takes away those minor stressors from our goals, like school goals, like graduating, finals, midterms, studying. I cannot tell you so many times I've had brain fog just worrying about food or tuition just throughout my career. I started going to COCC in 2019, so it's been a long journey for me. It took me a lot longer, because I had to work and stuff, but it's important.
Yeah.
It's important.
That's right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate so much, and I think it was great for all of us to hear that journey that you've been on is so similar to others, and there's a holistic approach. We can't just, sort of box things up, but rather having a holistic way in which we move through our journeys together, so that we can serve our communities, which you'll be wildly successful, I know, if you bring that level of passion and tenacity. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your story with us. And I'm honored to have been with you all here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.